Hey guys, it's Sarvi. Super excited for this video because I'm going to cover the 9 characters in Valorant, their abilities, and also my personal thoughts about them that were available in the early access version. So without waiting any longer, let's get right into it. So each character in Valorant is part of a category. We have 4 categories so far in the game. We have controllers, initiators, duelists, and sentinels. And each of these characters has 4 abilities. Think about it like League of Legends. You have a Q, E, and whatnot. In Valorant, it's the C, Q, E, and X. So every character has their special on X. So let's start with Breach. Breach is the character I played the most in the beta. I really liked him. It fit my playstyle really well. His first ability is the C. It's Aftershock. So pretty much there's a small delay before the ability happens, but you shoot through a wall and then there's a big burst of damage and a flashbang that pushes its opponent away. So if someone is camping or planting the bomb, you can get them out of their position. But it's only available through walls. As you can see, when it's in red, it doesn't work. When it's in yellow, it works. And his flashpoint is very similar. So his Q, second ability, is pretty much the same thing without the damage and without the burst pushing back, the force field kind of that pushes back. It has a longer range, so you're able to flash from a pretty big distance. Breach's third ability is the fault line. It's pretty much a stun and kind of disorientation ability that puts the enemy all in black and white. It can't really move properly, so it's pretty easy to peek them and shoot them after that. You have to charge it to be able to go as far as you want. If you look at the minimap right here, the blue line shows you exactly where the charge is gonna be, but this ability is a cooldown and not a single use, so you can reuse it multiple times into one round. So I usually use it very early in the round to be able to use it multiple times, unlike the 2 first abilities where they were once only. The ultimate ability for Breach is the Rolling Thunder. This one you cannot buy it. It has to be earned throughout the match. The Rolling Thunder is another ability that goes through the wall. So you just pretty much aim where you want to go. You see on the minimap, a big red area will be completely destroyed. It tosses all the enemy in the airs, and it also has a small delay. So you need to make sure that you do it right. It's really good when you want to retake a bomb site. I've been using it a lot to flush enemies out and be able to peek them if they're hiding in corners. Breach is probably my favorite character at the moment because it's the one that I related the most to coming from CSGO, but it was not the one that was the most used, so I was able to pick it also every time without having anybody to fight it for. Our second character to cover is Brimstone. He's our first initiator. Pretty much his first ability is the same beacon. It's something that you throw on the floor and it increases the rate of fire for anyone standing inside. But note that if your enemies are also standing in it, they will get that same boost. Can't shoot it, cannot be broken, and it lasts for 4 seconds after you leave the zone. So you can test that out in your private server. It's a pretty easy to see the difference. But for me, his biggest and most crucial ability is the Sky Smoke. You can pull up a small map, which is one of the very few characters that can do that, and you pick wherever you want 3 smokes to drop from the sky. But that small map doesn't cover the whole thing, so in spawn you can only reach so far, but it's very useful if you want to create right from they could go a strat to cover something, or even late in the game if you want to take a bomb site or retake a bomb site, to use these smoke. You can drop 1, 2, or 3 smokes at the latest, and each smokes last about 15 seconds. One thing to note is that the edges of the smokes are pretty sharp, so if you're used to other games just like that, there's no ambiguity at the edge of the smokes. There's no one-way smokes. You're either inside the smoke or outside. His third ability is the Q. It's an incendiary. It's pretty much a Molotov, but it has a bounce mechanic to it, kind of like a rocket launcher. And his ultimate, the one that you cannot buy, is the Orbital Strike. His X ability drops an AoE nuke that goes through roof. So he just picks wherever he wanted to land, and it does massive amount of damage. It's equal damage throughout the circle. So if you see that arrive on your screen, you have a couple seconds to get out of it, or you're pretty much deleted from the game. It's also friendly fire, but friendlies lose 33% less damage. There are instances where I was stuck in corners and I couldn't get away. For example, there was a Molotov on one side, the other side there was a wall, and then that big orbital strike stunned me and I just disappeared. So you kind of have to accept your fate when it happens. Honestly, when you attack, this is a must-have character. The smokes are pretty useful. We have our first Sentinel, Cypher, next. Cypher is a kind of a detection little tech guy. He's not about killing people, probably the hardest character to play. So the trap warrior, you pick a wall and it creates a line where the enemies can get caught in it if they don't pay attention. Obviously you can put that line anywhere, but it's more useful if it's at the ground. You can also pick up that line if you want to put it somewhere else. You can always have two lines at the same time only. The enemies can not see that line until they get real close if they're walking. If they're running, it will only appear once they got caught in it, and they'll have a couple seconds to kill it. The second ability is the Cyber Cage. It is a remote activated cage, and they act like a wall for your enemy, kind of like a different kind of a smoke, but it also makes a little bit of a noise when the enemies get in it, and it slows them down just a little bit. The third thing is the spy cam. You can drop the spy cam anywhere you want, and at any moment you can go back in it. So it's pretty much a remote activated camera. It reveals the enemy when you want, but it is not in real time. Let's just make sure that you remember that. You can also remove the camera by using F, and it will be invisible until it is active. But once it's active, it can be shot and destroyed by the enemies. So it's really important that you activate it at the right time. Usually when we did it early in the round, it was not useful at all. And the special ability for Cypher is X is neutral. TAF is really cool. So if someone dies anywhere on the map, if you kill an enemy anywhere on the map, Cypher can interrogate that enemy, just point and click, and it will show you where all of the other enemies are for a split of a second, but it will not update after that. I think this was one of the best characters to have on a team because it allows you to cover a bomb site pretty much by yourself and play passive. But I also think it was one of the hardest characters to play. So I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see who and how the pros will use it. Up next, we have Jett, our first duelist. Honestly, duelists were fan favorites when it came down to experienced FPS players, just because they gave us so many tools to kill people and win the rounds. Jett is no exception. It was one of the only characters to have a passive, so whenever you ult jump, you can kind of slide and glide. But the first real ability for Jett is a cloud burst. Jett C is a 3 or 4 second smoke that can stick to whatever it hits, or that explode on a specific timing if it doesn't hit anything by then. You can also curve it, so you can curve that throw with your old C while you pull your mouse. So that's also very interesting, and it's going to be something that's going to potentially have a lot of future for experienced player. Jett has 3 smokes, and just like the Brimstone smokes, they're pretty sharp, the edges are clean, and once you're either in it or outside of it. The next 2 abilities are fan favorites for sure. You have the updraft and the tailwind. Let's start with the updraft. Pretty much you have 2 per round, is where you use your Q and you can go up in the air pretty high. So it allows you to get boosted in specific spot or dodge bullets if you're getting shot. Unfortunately, the shooting is not accurate once you are in that updraft, and it's pretty much the same for the tailwind, which is a burst on whatever your last input was. It's a dash front, back, sides if your last input was that button. It is used defensively because it's really hard to go aggro, especially because your weapon comes out a little bit delayed after. So if you're trying to peek a corner and take out your weapon to kill someone, they probably will kill you first. It is not meant to be an overpowered aggressive move, but more a defensive move, but it's really good for escaping, and it can be combined with Jett's ultimate X, which is the Blade Storm. It is a very interesting ability because it is refreshed base killed, so if you kill people it will refresh, but it's pretty much 5 knives that you can shoot individually, but you can also shoot them all at the same time. Whatever knives is left, if you use right click, you will shoot them all, and that ability can be comboed with updraft, so it can be really good if you try to escape, take out your ability and throw some knives towards your enemy. So why am I saying it's a fan favorite? It's just because it's a very, I'm gonna say, dodgy and aggressive character. It is made for one of your best mechanical player, I believe, and we will see some crazy highlights with some Jetts in the future. Our next character looks pretty much as if it was made for Shroud. He was playing it all weekend long during the alpha. His name is Omen. Like all characters, Omen has 4 abilities. Let's cover first the Shrouded Steps. His C is pretty much a short range teleport, but it takes a little bit to cast. He can reach position that him and Jett can reach. For example, top of the boxes or getting into bomb site. He can also cross areas, choke points where enemies are, as enemies cannot see where he goes, but they can see where he channeled that teleport. He also remembers its last known orientation, so you can already move around while you're casting it, your character, to be ready to face something you want to face. His second ability is probably one of the most confusing one in the game. It's called Paranoia. It's a spell that you can throw through walls, and it pretty much sends a ball of paranoia. Once it gets you, you cannot see in long range, so it has like a short range visibility. It looks like you're stuck in a smoke, but anyone can see you, so it's can be very confusing for first time player to get hit by paranoia, expecting enemies to also get that vision, but only you have it. The third ability for Omen is the Dark Cover. It's pretty much a smoke that goes through the walls and falls on the ground. So you can control the distance with right click, and you can decide where you want it to drop. So in the long run, you can learn where specific smokes will land, and it has a really far reach. So you can practice sitting in a corner and kind of knowing where the distance should be for a ball to drop exactly where you want. But remember, it has a little timing to drop, so at first you're still vulnerable because people can see underneath it, but you can also throw it really close distance, just like a smoke, to be able to cross a area. And the Omen's ultimate is probably the one you'll learn the fastest when you face it against. It's called From the Shadow, and it's a global teleport ability. You decide where you go, and you can teleport. There's a little delay to make it happen, and you're vulnerable at the beginning when you are teleporting. Your enemies can hear where you're teleporting if they are close, and they can cancel it if they shoot it fast enough. But if they don't, you're in a position of being completely behind enemy lines and disrupting the enemy's defense or attack strategy. It's going to be very interesting to see how people are going to chain these abilities and combo them with others whenever they want to take a bomb site together. I cannot wait for these strategies to come out. Our second character is Phoenix. It was also a very popular character, but it was not an easy one to master. This is made for aggressive player or clutch players. So let's start with its first ability, the Blaze. It's a flame wall that acts like a visual blocker, but if any Phoenix goes in it, it heals them. One of the really cool features though about this wall is that you can curve it. So if you throw that wall and move your mouse really quick at the same time, you will be able to figure out how to curve. This could be really useful in very specific, for example, defense strategy or retake strategy, or even some bomb site strategy to take them and attack them. This also can be used in clutches if you need to heal yourself and at the same time, for example, diffuse the strike. This can be really, really useful. The second ability is the curveball. This is probably one of the hardest ability to master just because of how interesting it can be in 1v1 situation and clutch situation. The curveball is a flashbang that has a really, really short range. Either you use mouse 1 or mouse 2 to make it go left or right. You need to turn away to not get blinded for a minute, because you can also get blinded, but pretty much you throw that ball, pick up your weapon, and then you're able to shoot. Thing is that you need to be really close to a cover for it to work, and the duration of the flashbang is extremely short compared to breach, so you also need to make sure you're ready to fight, or else it is not going to be efficient. Phoenix E is called Hot Hands. It's pretty much a Molotov, but what's special about it is that this Molotov heals Phoenix, so it is bad for enemies, good for him. Again, in a situation of clutch and whatnot, you can use it to heal yourself. And the last ability, one that people are gonna have so much fun with it, is ultimate is X is running back. When you start running back, you have a specific amount of time to do anything you want without any consequences. Whether you die or the timer runs out, you will go back to wherever you were when you launched that ultimate. So it allows you to be very creative with it. For example, gather some information, even go through portals with it, and then be able to come back wherever you were right when you activated it. For me, this character was really fun to have in a team, not only because of all the creative stuff you could do with it, but also if you have a really talented and skilled player, they can really push the abilities to create some sick highlights. For our next character, let's talk about another Sentinel, Sage. It's pretty much the ultimate support slash healer character in Valorant so far. So its first ability, it's called Barrier Orb. It's pretty much a wall that you can put in at any moment. You put up that wall and it will last honestly forever. You cannot move the wall once it's placed, so you need to be really careful on where you do it. But thankfully, there are ways to really make sure that you place it properly by doing a 90-degree kind of switch on your positioning, or by fine-tuning it using right click on your mouse and moving that wall. That wall can be destroyed though, although it lasts forever. If people shoot it, you can see the damage that it's done visually on the wall. It eventually will break. The next ability is the slow orb. That one is so easy to understand. You throw that orb and it will create an AoE slow on impact. So whoever goes through that AoE area, that big area, will be slowed, and it will make that noise that anyone can recognize. So it's really useful to block some rushes or just to delay some situation, win some time, to make sure that your teammates can rotate, or to make sure that your enemies cannot plant the strike. The next ability is the healing, or she can use it. If you want to heal a teammate, it's a left click. It will do a small burst of heal over time. From my experience, it was a little bit over 50 HP being regened. And on yourself, you can also heal it by using the right click. There's even a little UI helping you to know if you can heal your friends. And lastly, the superpower of Sage is her X ability is the resurrection. So pretty much whenever you have a teammate that goes down, you can revive them with 100 health with weapons, unless someone stole their weapon on their dead body. And when she's resurrecting someone, she cannot be killed. You cannot res someone through the wall, and the kill feed at the top right shows whoever has been res. So if it's an enemy or a friend, it's really important that you keep an eye on that, because those 1v1 situation can get switched to a 1v2 situation real quick. I found that once the resurrection ability was ready to be used, that Sage players should play a little bit more passive. In ops, they can be useful to their team, middle or end game. Next, we have another initiator, Silva. Silva was one of the characters I love to play the most because of its recon abilities and his information gathering. So the first ability of Silva is a drone. So it's kind of a owl tech drone where you have a timer to use it and you can go around the map. And if you find someone, you can tag them for a little bit by shooting at them. Once you are in the drone, Silva cannot move. And that drone also seemed not killable. I tried shooting it and it didn't seem like it was working at all. So it can be really useful to gather some information. Its Q is a shock bolt, but there's two things that are very, very interesting about its Q is that no matter how much you charge it, once you pass like the first, second, or third line, it will always do the same amount of charge. So you can plan and prepare and practice those charges. But also, you have ways to bounce it. So you have 1 bounce, 0 bounce, 1 bounce, and 2 bounce. So you can use that to pretty much pre-fire corners as soon as the game starts and practice those shock bolts in specific area in the bomb site. Its third ability is the recon bolt. So it's pretty much the same thing, but once it hit a surface, it stays there and it tags anyone in that area. One thing that is really important to know is that this one can be destroyed. So if you throw it in areas where your enemies are going to see it real fast, like on the ground and whatnot, they can shoot at it really fast and destroy it. Also, if you aim too high, it will not reach the ground. So this is also a good information to know. So if you reach for the sky or if you're aiming at top of the roofs, it will not tag whoever is not being reached underneath that line. So the special is the Hunter's Fury. His X ability is 3 charges that goes through the map, as you can see on this minimap in blue. It's 3 charges that are pretty hard to adjust once you start aiming. But as soon as you hit someone through the wall with it, you see a red overlay, and then it's kind of easy to follow them and finish them. I've died to this multiple times, and I'm not gonna lie, it's super hard to dodge, but it's possible to dodge it. I don't think that Silva is essential, but I think it's super fun to play. And those recon bolt can be used in ways to retake bomb site or aggress bomb sites. And I do love playing it. And last but not least, we have our last controller and last character of this video, Viper, another zoning and zone control character. So Viper has a fuel bank, and pretty much she uses that bank whenever she uses her abilities, and when they're offline, she recharges that bank until she can use it again. Her first ability is the snake bite. So her C does AoE damage pretty much on their grounds. It's easily visible, and it has grenade launcher physics, so you can bounce it a little bit on the corners, and it allows you to flush out enemies are stuck in a zone. Her second ability, the Q, is a poison cloud. It creates a fuel basic toxic cloud. So not only does it act like a smoke, I want to say a smoke screen, a vision occlusion screen, but it also can be activated and deactivated whenever she wants, and it can be picked up after use to be redeployed somewhere else. It can also not be destroyed by enemies, so this can be really useful to cover a website. Maybe a combo with, for example, Cypher and the camera and her could be done to block people from coming in bomb sites, even if both characters are not in that area. Another ability that's kind of crazy in this game is the gas wall. So Viper's third ability, it's a huge wall that can go across most maps, and once it's risen, it's pretty much a vision wall but also a toxic wall. So enemies If they want to go through, they will, but they can't see what's on the other side of it, and it can be activated and deactivated however Viper pleases, using the same pool of toxic fuel as the poison cloud. Last but not least, we have Viper's Spit. This is probably one of the ballsiest mechanic in the game, because once she activates that pit, it is huge. It covers more than half of almost all of the bomb sites in the game so far. It doesn't use Viper's fuel, and it lasts for a long time. When enemies are in that pit, she sees them all blasted in red, so it's very easy for her to see where they are, and it's hard for them to see where she is. And one thing really cool about that pit is that it decays enemies' health up to 1 HP. It doesn't kill them, so they can go back up to their full HP when they leave that pit. I've seen this pit used in post-plant situation where the enemy teams were covering the bomb, and it's really hard to take it over. It's one of the ability I thought when we played really good Vipers was really hard to counter, while when we played average Vipers kind of was worth nothing. So I think this is going to be one of the hardest character to master in the game. So this was my gameplay breakdown of all the characters in this early version of Valorant. This is my first time doing that, so let me know in the comment if you liked it. I want to know what your favorite characters are that you played or that you're looking forward to play. Since you know mine, they were Breach and Silva. I want to know what you guys are looking for. Let me know in the comments, but also sub to my channel because I'm going to be doing a lot of Valorant content. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.